Bloodborne Chapter VI, Cainhurst Castle, the Executioners, and Queen Annalise.
Once a scholar betrayed his fellows at Bergenworth and brought through forbidden blood back with him to Cainhurst. It was there that the first inhuman Vileblood was born. The Vilebloods are fiendish creatures who threaten the purity of the Church's blood healing. The ruler of the Vilebloods is still alive today, and so, to honor my master's wishes, I search for the path to Cainhurst Castle.
If you're like me, you were excited the very moment the stagecoach pulled up to greet you at Hemwick. The journey to Cainhurst Castle and the exploration of the new area provides a nice breath of fresh air and pleasant interruption to Yharnam, in which we are shown a whole new area within the world and a whole new mystery. Cainhurst is an area unlike any other within Yharnam. To be perfectly honest, it doesn't really fit in, does it? A forsaken castle ruled by an undead queen, the weeping ghosts of murmured women wandering haunted chambers, man-eating gargoyles lying in wait to ambush unsuspecting prey. Really, the area would fit much more into something more demon-y, more Souls-like, if you wish, than it does into Bloodborne. So Cainhurst is unlike any other, even from the perspective. After all, Cainhurst is the only area that offers Dark Souls-y style Covenant for the hunters to join. So to get to the bottom of the mystery of Cainhurst Castle, let's start by taking a look at Cainhurst itself, what we know about it, and what we can glean with the monsters wandering its halls. While in Yharnam, blood is an object of worship. In Cainhurst, blood is an object of desire. Nobles of Cainhurst were elitists, an aristocratic area, enjoying the far more elegance over strength or functionalities described by the knight set. The attire of the knights of Cainhurst, regal peace graced by intricate goldwork. The Cainhurst was its mix of nostalgia and bombast. They take a great pride in the blood-stained corpses of beasts they leave behind, confident that they will stand as examples of decadent art. In Cainhurst, your status at court is everything. The closer you are to the queen, the more important you are. The further away you are, the less you matter. The Blood Rapture Rune. This rune resonates with the servants of the queen, carrier of the child of blood, who yearn for their queen's blood with little hope of requirement. For them they find solace in blood rapture that serves as a surrogate for their desires. The highest of honors in Cainhurst must be named a Vileblood, one of the elite inner circle of Queen Annalise. As evidenced by the ritual Queen Annalise makes the hunter perform, should they choose to become a Vileblood, the Vilebloods imbibed in the Queen's blood. While the Yharnamites share blood through injection and transfusion, the nobles of Cainhurst seem to drink it directly from the source. As Queen Annalise extends her wrist to the hunter, the Vilebloods, the elite guard of the Queen, would travel out to hunt for her, bringing tribute back to her in the form of blood dregs. We will explore the Vilebloods and Queen Annalise further, but for now let's focus on the lesser important figures in Cainhurst and what information we can gather from them. The old nobles, long time embedded of blood, the strangers, the sanguine plague, and the disposal of beasts was discreet task to their servants, or a knight as they were called for the sake of appearances. Comes from the writer Palash. While there are beasts in Cainhurst, they are much different from the beasts of Yharnam. There is no sign of lycanthropy, the main symptom of the condition we refer to as the scourge of the beast, anywhere to be found in Cainhurst. Instead, the beasts of Cainhurst are twisted, malformed things that drain the blood from the ground. The official description of these, the blood lickers. With no host left to defend Cainhurst and the castle of the beastly siege, these deadly but vile creatures prowl the grounds, gorging themselves on the tainted fluid of the fallen. Indeed, the bloodlickers seem far more interested in draining blood from corpses than they are of the hunter. Unlike Yharnam's beasts, which rip and tear the flesh to shreds in pure rage, the bloodlickers move quietly from corpse to corpse, drinking. We have an example of a very different kind of beast, one wholly unlike the beasts of Yharnam. Yharnam beasts, we know, are the result of individuals succumbing to the tainted blood of the Great Ones, infected thanks to the use of blood administration. The bloodlickers, infested with vermin, must have a different origin. So let us recall what Alfred says about Cainhurst. He told us that a scholar betrayed his fellows at Byrgenwerth and brought forbidden blood back with him to Cainhurst Castle. Whatever blood was brought to Cainhurst, it was most certainly not the blood of the Great Ones. It was something different, forbidden, impure. The introduction of this blood led to the new mission, by then burgeoning Healing Church, and the formation of the Executioners. In his time, Master Logarius led his Executioners into Cainhurst Castle to cleanse it of the Vileblood, but all did not go well. Master Logarius became blessed anchor, guarding us from evil. Tragic, tragic time. That Master Logarius should be abandoned in the accursed domain of the Vilebloods. I must free him, so that he may properly honour in martyrdom. Little is known of the Executioners. They were a group of hunters who, led by a man named Logarius, travelled to Cainhurst Castle and battled the Vilebloods. It would seem that church was still operating mostly in secrecy. The Executioner attire, which tells us that the band of executioners commanded by the martyr Logarius later became the basis for all church attire, with its heavy draping of holy shawl. This would seem to suggest, though, that executioners were the first case of an organized group of the church operating in the open, as before then there were no section of the church wearing the familiar attire. What this means of Alfred is unknown. He claims to be a simple hunter. Perhaps he simply sought to emulate the teachings of Logarius. He certainly has a great deal of veneration for Logarius, his entire mission being to complete Logarius's mission once and for all, to elevate him in a true martyrdom. Whatever Alfred's motivation behind the path of the executioner, we know that the executioner of old did battle against the Cainhurst Vilebloods. From the accounts we have access to, it was not a close battle. Logarius's wheel tells us as being used to slaughter the Vilebloods in Cainhurst, bathed in pools of their blood and forever steeped in the ire. Slaughter is the key word here. The nobles of Cainhurst were systematically executed. The Vilebloods were bludgeoned to death by the mighty wheels of Logarius. For all their elegance and beauty, the Cainhurst Vilebloods were no match for the fury of the executioners. But there was one Vileblood who could not be slain, and this brings us to the final topic of our current idea.
I am Queen Annalise, Queen of Cainhurst Castle, ruler of the Vilebloods, and sworn enemy of the Church.
Annalise is a very strange figure within the world, and like I mentioned earlier, doesn't really seem to fit. She is mostly assured something far more than simply human. In fact, the Queen is immortal. There is no way to kill her. Even Alfred, who rips her limb from limb, smashes her into a pulp, tears out her organs, smears her against the floor, and indeed leaves there nothing but a pile of blood and meat, fails to kill her. Indeed, she is left simply writhing merely. What good is your immortality now? Try and stirring up trouble in this sorry state, all managed and twisted, with every inside and the outside for all the world to see? But the queenly flesh, a chunk of meat the hunter can retrieve from her remains, tells us, this pinkish lump of flesh remains warm, as if cursed. All hail the undying queen of blood. Annalise is never dead. Her consciousness remains inside of the meat, and can be used to repair her. Indeed, can be restored from a mangled state if the hunter bring the queenly flesh to the corpse in the altar of despair. But Annalise is not unique in this. She is not the only immortal queen in Bloodborne. Upon defeating Yharnam, queen of Pthumeru, the hunter receives the Yharnam stone. It appears to be meaty, organic remains, and even has the faint outline of a fetus within it. The Yharnam stone reads, "The queen lies dead, but horrific consciousness is only asleep, and it stirs in unsettling motions." So, in the depths of ancient Pthumeru, the Byrgenwerth scholars studied and researched the old blood of the Great Ones. However, the scholars found much more than the Great Ones. They found those who had once worshipped them, the Pthumerans. It's not exactly clear if they directly located Yharnam, or if they simply gathered blood samples from Pthumerans themselves. However, it's most likely that some of Yharnam's blood was recovered and researched. The old blood, will be feared, was not forbidden. It seems strange that the scholars, seekers of truth, would label anything as forbidden. Yharnam's blood must have been so tainted, so vile and impure, that it was not to be toyed with. Perhaps this blood was teeming with vermin, the source of the Pthumerim's seemingly magical abilities. Yharnam's mastery over blood is unlike anything within Bloodborne. During the battle against her, she seems to teleport, spray blood from her fingertips, and summon blades in the air of pure blood. Yharnam also appears to be able to project herself from a prison in Pthumeru, appearing in both the Nightmare of Menses and the Moonside Lake. Neither human nor Great One, Yharnam is some twisted, impure mix of the two, possibly as a result of her impregnation by Oideon, the formless Great One of Blood. One scholar, however, betrayed their fellows. This may have been Maria. We already know that Maria was of Cainhurst descent. Perhaps after the Hamlet massacre, Maria was disillusioned enough to bring the impure Yharnam's blood back to her people. However, it doesn't really seem to fit. As Maria is associated with the early Healing Church, the Healing Church most certainly feared the blood of Yharnam, and even labels her blood as forbidden. As well, the blood of Ariana's description. A member of the Healing Church would know that her blood is similar indeed to precisely what was once forbidden. Ariana even wears a Cainhurst dress, furthering the connection between the two figures, Cainhurst and themselves. Perhaps the scholar who brought the forbidden blood to Cainhurst was just an unnamed scholar, or perhaps it was Maria, or even the Bloody Crow. Either way, Yharnam's tainted blood made its way to Cainhurst Castle, and Queen Annalise, imbibed in the tainted, vermin-riddled forbidden blood of Yharnam, became the first of the Vilebloods. But Annalise was not satisfied with the simple transformation that followed. She sought an heir and child of blood, and Annalise believed that through the mass consumption of powerful blood, she would be able to impregnate herself and give birth to the child of blood. And so she created the Vilebloods, the Cainhurst Castle. The first thin sliver armor is said to deflect blood of ill intent, and it allows the royal guards to capture prey for their beloved queen, so that one day she may bear a child of blood. The Vilebloods set out into the night, seeking powerful beings to capture and drag in chains to their queen. Hunters would become the favored prey for the Vilebloods. The Blood Dreg, an item the hunter can recover. The corruption rune tells us that the Vilebloods of Cainhurst, which are bloodlusting hunters, see the frightful things in cold blood. They often appear in the blood echo of fiends, but that is to say that the blood of hunters and the Queen Annalise partakes in these blood dreg offerings, so that she may one day bear the child of blood, the next Vileblood heir. Look at the image of the blood dreg. Look at the small things that seem to squirm inside of it. They rather look like sperm. don't they? Annalise believed the consumption of the blood of powerful figures would allow her to eventually conceive this child of blood. Whatever a child of blood is, it would never come to pass. The church discovered of this new threat and formed a response in form of the executioners, led by Logarius. The wheel hunter tells us, Martyr Logarius led a band of executioners, and this badge was crafted at Degate Workshop. The workshop was a secretive enclave of mystical beliefs and handy fantasism, which served as the backbone of the executioner's unique brand of justice. Again, we can see the reference to secrecy, describing the church's early style of operation in darkness. The Vilebloods and the executioners. So the executioners stormed Cainhurst Castle and slaughtered the Vilebloods. The nobles of Cainhurst were shown no mercy as Cainhurst fell to the invaders. But when Logarius marched into the Queen's throne room, he found that no matter what he did, she would not die. Perhaps simply impeding Yharnam's blood had granted Annalise power beyond death, or perhaps it was the accumulation of blood dregs that had given her immortality. Either way, Logarius ruled that the Queen Annalise would never be allowed freedom. If she could not be killed, she must be made prisoner for all eternity to prevent the birth of a child of blood. A mask was forced onto her, covering her entire face. There are no references or information available to be found why exactly this mask. Other than looking at it, she wears it. However, what power the mask holds unbounds her in the throne room and left her unable to resist her captivity. This still would not prevent dregs, as the hunter is capable of doing, and so Logarius took the crown of Cainhurst and the crown of illusions and placed it atop of his head. Only by wearing the crown of illusions would one be allowed access to Annalise's throne room, prevent any further interaction with Annalise. Logarius donned the crown and sat upon the throne of Cainhurst, acting as a living lock of the prisoner queen. Recall how Logarius's wheel states that it had become bathed in pools of blood, and whoever stepped in their ire. Transforming the wheel reveals how tainted it was and had become, as it contains the strength of the Vilebloods within it. Logarius had been so drenched in impure blood that he had been forever steeped in the fury of the fallen Cainhurst nobles. He became undying, a part of the body, spirits of the fallen Vilebloods. He would remain as such until the hunter would end his watch, taking the crown of illusions and discovering Annalise. But what path will the hunter take? Will they kneel to the queen and join her, bringing her blood? Will they help Alfred in smashing her to pieces? Which path is the correct one to choose? That remains to be the question.